Hi everyone, and welcome to another session of Taking Care of Business. This is Victoria Jennings. Sorry we're a bit late kickoff today. Um, it's been crazy. It's end of financial year here in Australia, and certain things don't wait for anyone. That's all I'll say. Busy day. Okay. So what I wanted to talk to you about today are the different stages of business. And what to expect. But before I do that, I wanted to remind everyone that on the 29th of July at 9:30 a.m., it's a Tuesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, I'm running a special event here in the group, which is what $10,000 buyers really need to hear and how to sell so they say yes fast. Now, this is all about the people here who actually sell via a Zoom call or a phone call, but something that's face-to-face, one-on-one, okay? If you do that, if that's what you do, then you need to not miss this session, because I'm going to go through the different perspectives, the 4 different perspectives that buyers have, and the 4 different ways they need the information given to them in order to make a fast buying decision. There are 4 different lots of buying triggers. There are 4 different ways they need the information given to them, provided to them, even to the point of letting them have 24 hours to think about it. So it's something that's not taught anywhere that I'm aware of. What we normally do is we sell the way we like to be sold to, which is great. That represents 25% of the population. So, and funny enough, that also seems to be the measuring stick for conversion rates. 25% is a very common measure to achieve, and I wonder, do those conversion rates have anything to do with the fact that you're not presenting the sales information the way it needs to be received by 75% of the population? Food for thought. So I want you to come along, put it in your diary, 29 July, 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'll be talking more about it next week, but I really would encourage you, if you sell that way, if you sell face-to-face, one-on-one, make sure you're there. Okay. All right, today I want to talk about the different stages of business. And some people have different ideas about the different stages of business that there are. But today I'm talking about the entrepreneurs that I work with and the stages of business that I see them in and often seen them stuck in. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, how you can get momentum, a little bit of a momentum in each stage, okay, to get out of it and into the next stage. So the very first stage of business for every business is to come up with the business idea. A lot of people struggle with coming up with ideas. Other people, like myself, come up with hundreds of ideas, and then you have too many to choose from and you don't know which one to follow, to take. And there's people who are in between, right? So the idea is the most important thing of the business, and then you're going to do some things like do some research. Once you come up with the idea, you do your research, do your market research, see who else is out there, who the competitors might be, and really start to look at, is it something that people actually want to buy? And that's a step that a lot of people miss, is will people buy it? Because we can have the greatest ideas and the most wonderful thing that we think everyone will love to buy, and no one buys it. We hear crickets, okay? And that's because maybe we haven't presented it to them in the way it needs to be presented to. Maybe we focused on benefits and not transformation. And, today we need to focus on what the transformation will be, not what the container looks like that you're going to have to sell to your potential clients, right? They're only interested in transformation. And everyone's got a very short attention span today too. So you've also got to take that into account. But the most important thing is to do your business plan, do all your research, make sure it's a viable business to undertake. Okay. Now, if you don't have any idea, you know you want to have a business, but you don't have any clue what that business should be, I also have business in a box solutions for entrepreneurs who are in that predicament. They would really love to offer something, but they don't know what they want to offer. If that's you, put business idea in the comments below, and I'll make sure I give you some information about this done for you business in a box that you could have a look at and see if it's something that resonates with you. Okay, I don't want to go into more detail than that, but there is a solution if that's you. All right, so now let's say you've got your idea, you've done your research, it looks like it's going to be viable, but based on research. And so now you're in the next stage, which is the startup stage. So the very first thing that we do in the startup stage, before we do a fancy website, before we go spending a whole lot of money that might be absolutely wasted, the first thing we do is work on what it is we're going to sell. And we start immediately to sell and make sure there is a market for it before we do any more development. So especially if you're a business coach or a course provider, if you've got a college, you've got to make sure you test those products first and make sure that there is an absolute market for it. I remember I was working with University of Nebraska, going back a few years ago now, and I worked with the professional development unit who were responsible for developing all of the programs, like the short programs for corporates, okay? Team development, leadership, those sorts of programs, okay? And I went there to help them out with another project. But as I was helping them out with another project, it became very clear that they always developed their courses first and then put them out to market, which is crazy, because these people, this university have 300 curriculum designers, which I was helping them recruit at the time, which is a lot of curriculum designers. So they do a lot of curriculum writing, okay? And so this is a big deal. And so I suggested to them that they prove their concept first and then develop the program, which was totally new to them because they always did it the other way around. So they loved it and they actually started to implement that. So when you know, and all you have to do this, especially if it's a course or something where you're making an offer, all you really have to do is do up a brochure with what's going to be in it. Let them know that it's not developed yet, but to get on the waiting list, right? And provide them with a discount for that and take a deposit, right? That's how you handle it. So you get some money in, which helps you fund the development of the program, of the coaching course, of the whatever it might be, the digital marketing material, like whatever it might be that you have. And so you make sure there's a market for it before you spend any more time or energy into developing it. And that was key for me when I started doing, because I used to do it the other way around too. And my other college that I often talk about, we had 45 qualifications on our scope that we could offer. That's a lot. And each one of those qualifications would have 10 to 15 units or modules that had to be developed. So we're talking about a lot of development work, right? And I used to do all the development first, mainly because I was a curriculum designer, a trained curriculum designer. And so that was what I did. And of course, when you're learning how to do curriculum design, that's what they tell you to do. They don't tell you how to run a business. Okay. So I had many flops where we didn't sell anything because I thought it was a great program, but the people out there didn't. So you don't want to spend all that time and money developing that program if no one's going to buy it. Much better off to do the early launch and see if there's a market for it. And if there's not, great. You just go back to the drawing board. You might ask the people some questions about why it wasn't specifically something they wanted, get some feedback, and then go back to the drawing board and think about another option you could have. And you go through the same process. So that happens in startup stage where you've already got your business plan, and then you're testing how the products and services that you offer are actually going to land in the market before you do it, okay, before you've developed it. So that minimizes your risk, especially for a startup, because you're not wasting money on all those resources. And the less money we spend in the beginning, the better, right? You want to keep as much cash behind the business as you possibly can, rather than getting into too much debt. And then you're risking getting into more debt if that particular product or service doesn't take off, right? So that is startup, and that's if you're bootstrapping your business. What do I mean by bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is when you are actually investing in your business. You're the only one investing in your business, and you are making sure you're the provider of the money to get it going. And bootstrapping means we can only go as fast as the sales that are coming in, because the sales that are coming in, we're taking some of the profits and reinvesting back into the business. That's bootstrapping. All right. The other ways are you can borrow money. It's another way, whether it be from friends, family, financial institutions, or banks. Banks normally won't loan you any money till you don't need it in business. So that's what I found. That's been my experience. So you can do it that way. Or you might have saved up a whole lot of capital and you're going to use that capital that you've got yourself, right? But most people I know, especially coaches out there, are bootstrapping, okay? Especially if it's a one-man band, just you in the business to start with. That's how I started my business. I bootstrapped my business as well. I love bootstrapping because you're not risking too much money. You know, if it's a flop, it's not going to wipe you out, okay? I know other people who do the absolute opposite to that, invest a whole lot of money. And sometimes they win and sometimes they lose. More often than not, they lose. So I don't like playing that game, but I mean, it's up to you, all right? It is like a gamble, though. You've got to say to yourself, well, I'm willing to invest this money and I might not come back. So only invest the amount of money that you can afford to. Don't invest too much that's going to take you out of the game, or worse, make you sell your house. Okay. But at startup stage, you start to get money coming in. You're really in startup stage until you can replace the income that you had for your job that you had before you went into business. Okay, so whatever that might have been, once you've replaced it, you're starting to move out of startup and you're starting to move into scale up. Now, scale up stage is where we start looking at putting a team together. So we want to stop doing everything ourselves. In startup, you're doing everything yourself, especially in bootstrapping. You do everything yourself. And it's the octopus syndrome, and you've got your tentacles going everywhere and trying to juggle things. Things are dropping through the cracks, and everything sucks, okay? Now, in scale up stage, this is where we start getting help. This is where we start spreading the load. So we might start with a virtual assistant or a few virtual assistants, right? But it's not just us anymore. As you scale bigger and bigger, you will have recruited staff and they will be on salary, right? And then you've got the responsibility of making sure that salary is always there, ready to be paid to them. So it's quite a responsibility when you've got people employed, not contracted. Because if you've got people contracted, it's pretty easy to be flexible with them. You know, if you've got no work this month, then you've got no work this month. But when you've got employees, you've got to make sure they're always busy, and you've got to make sure you can always pay them. Okay, so just remember that. So there's usually a transition from contract to employed, but numbers have got to be really solid when you go down the employment. And also there's all legislation requirements, reporting requirements, that brings in a whole lot of other stuff as well. So, but you start in this stage, you start to experience more freedom of time. In the startup phase, it's all you, right? And you're in it, you're working in the business. If you don't work in the business, you don't get paid. In the scale up stage, you are starting to buy your time because you've got other people who are doing things that you used to do. So you're buying your time back. And it's a very exciting stage. I really enjoyed this stage in my college, but I started to feel guilty because I didn't have as much work to do. So you've got to watch that as well. And of course, the bigger we got and the more solid our income was and the bigger our team became, the more money that came in and the more people I had to let things go and delegate, that I actually was able to delegate most things. I would just do some CEO things, but that didn't require my full attention, my full-time attention. So I started to have some time where I could do whatever I wanted to do, which was awesome. And then finally, we have the step out stage. And the step out stage is where you might choose to franchise or license your business. You may choose, you've now got your team, you've got a solid team. You might have teams, plural, different divisions, depending on how big your company is. And this is where you now recruit a CEO to replace you. That's what the CEO is for. Okay. And that's what I've done. So I've installed a CEO. Like, they can't replace you completely because you obviously still have a lot of corporate knowledge. You have a lot of the history. You have all of the history in your head. You understand exactly where we've been, and your CEO, could change, like any other management position. But I find that you only need to have one meeting a week. If something urgent pops up, there might be a phone call here and there if that's needed. Different times of the year, maybe different things happen. It might need a bit more of your attention and time. But pretty much the CEO looks after everything on your behalf. And then you have basically nothing to do, which is where I found myself. And I actually went down to the beach just because I love the beach. And I lived there for a couple of years. But then it was lovely. I had like a sabbatical, but then I started to get bored again. So I decided to create another business because as an innovator, that's what innovators do. Always have more than one business. Always, always, always. So, and so that's where we are at right now. And I'm in startup phase with this business, which is Entrepreneurs Building Success, right? We're in startup phase still. And startup phase can last, quite a long time. In fact, I find it is the longest stage of the business because once you start getting momentum, things start rocking and rolling and things start happening pretty quickly. It's like there's little glass ceilings at each level and at each level of remuneration or income. There's a little glass ceiling and you get stuck there for a little while and then you go whoop to the next one and book to the next one. But there's always a bit of a delay. And for an innovator, that delays are awful because we get really impatient and then we start blaming ourselves or everyone else and we think there's something really wrong. Okay, but there's not. It really is how it goes. Okay, so you'll start stepping out. Once you put your CEO in place, you'll start stepping out of your business more and more and more, until you can go on holidays. You can even take a 3-month sabbatical if you want to. And so now you've bought your time completely back, and you're no longer having to put time in, so you can put your focus on other things or to build other things. And I find that is the most exciting place for me, personally, to be, because I love starting things, and I'm good at starting things. I'm not so great at maintaining things, and I know that because I've done my profile. So if you haven't done your profile, make sure you get it done, because it will give you some great insights into why you might feel frustrated, or why you love to do X, Y, Z, or, this is the highest percentage I have, and this is my genius zone. This is where my biggest bang for my buck is going to come from doing this work. It's not going to come from doing other work. This is why I procrastinate over this. This is why I never procrastinate over that. It gives you all of that insight. So if you haven't done your profile yet, I encourage you to do it, and you'll really need it for that workshop that we're doing. If you're coming along to the workshop on the 29th of July, please do your profile before coming along, because we're going to be talking about the 4 different ways that people show up, and it actually relates back to the profile. Everything I do relates back to the profile. Even the stages of business relate back to the profile. It's the source document of everything I teach, right? So make sure you get that. Just put profile in the comments, and we'll make sure you get the link so that you can do that. It's completely free, and it's very cool. It's a 15-page report for you, all about you. Okay. Exciting. So once again, I think that wraps up for today. I don't think I've got anything more to say about that. Just be aware of the stage of business that you're in, and be aware of what you should be working on, and what you should focus on, and know that you won't stay in that particular stage forever. There's always movement, there's always momentum. And of course, in the Roadmap to Millions Bootcamp, I give you the whole roadmap so that you know exactly what to do when, who to do it with, and how to do it, to give you that momentum, to get you to the next stage, and the next stage, and the next stage. Because there are different things that you need to do at the different stages of business. And there's also 8 stages of business that I talk about in the program, not 3. The 3 stages I spoke about today are the 3 stages who I work with predominantly. These are the people who turn up in my circle. These are the people that I coach in the 3 different levels, okay, of business. So that's that. 29th of July, 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We're going to look at what 10,000 buyers really need to hear, and how to sell so that they say yes fast. Okay. All right. It will be great. You can come here in the Facebook group. It will also be available on Zoom. If you're a member of my group and you want to come in on the Zoom call, just put Zoom down in the comments, and we'll make sure that you get the Zoom details as well. Okay. All right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Apologies again for the delay today. Couldn't be helped. And next week, so it'll be the same time again, 10:30 a.m. Thursday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, for Taking Care of Business. Fantastic to see everyone, and I'll see you next week. Bye.